corruption in general doesn't have any collective benefit, but it only have individual benefits, and those individual benefits do not help the community, do not help the country. The reason why we find corruption as a setback, it's like a setback, something that doesn't contribute to the development of the country. So everyone should stand against corruption. We should all build strategies that are against corruption in our countries, because the benefit is individual, it is not collective.
So important as a conversation and to dialogue around, because remember, in South Africa, we've seen corruption as unfortunately something that is destroying the country in terms of service delivery. It's showing you the repercussions of that corruption. The greed hinders service delivery, whether it is your electricity, whether it is your water. And the sad reality is that even those that want to stand out and say this is wrong are killed. Are killed as whistleblowers, are looked down upon. And so for me, it's that moral fiber of what we are as humans that we need to really start engraving into our youth and our kids. And they should be able to know, you know what, if I take somebody's pencil, it's stealing, it's wrong.
So we talk about corruption. Most times when people say corruption, we tend to look at government. But I always ask myself, who is government? It's not hydra-hided. They are individuals like myself, yourself, and any other human being. They have relations, their fathers, their mothers. They are like every human being. And yes, corruption is in Nigeria, just like we have it in every part of the world. But sadly, because we have a system such that nobody holds anyone accountable. And so people have a leeway, they tend to get away with misbehavior, simple misbehaviors. So for me, I want to start from the smallest unit of any society, which is the family.
People are simply dissatisfied with a democratic dispensation that is not delivering social goods. Now, it's not because democracy itself inherently is incapable of delivering these goods. It's because we are currently in a system where there's a capture of it, and because of that, corruption is blocking social goods from coming down to the people, which is creating a bit of anger and resentment.
Even our parents, our elders, they are giving us such kind of bad behavior. It's called the succession planning of corruption. That if your parent has been eating from the public funds, you're also transferring it to the another generation, to your kid, and then it goes to your grandkid.
Caveats first, that corruption is an abuse of human rights because you're stealing from future generations. Secondly, just to echo some statements made before by Peter, that corruption is a system, it's a cycle that perpetuates itself if we don't stop it. Third is that corruption permeates almost every sector of our lives in Africa, be it in the education system, healthcare, worse in the oil and gas sector. So it doesn't stop at the top, it permeates down to the bottom.
In Kenya, when we talk about corruption, especially to the youth, there's something that they mention, and that is security. So most of them, they say, I don't want to talk about it because if I talk about it, they'll come for me. They'll want to kill me. They'll want to maybe manipulate my family. They want to manipulate my friends. So I cannot even talk about it because it's something that is putting me at risk. But remember, if we come together, all of us, and champion for this, and that is the more reason when you talk about corruption, I always tend to tell people, can we just change the narrative? Can we talk about integrity building?
It's interesting to know that there are other countries in Africa more corrupt than Cameroon. I used to think that if any nation, if the continent organized a trophy for corruption, Cameroon will win back-to-back the continental trophy. I honestly, I'm hearing this from Ghana and I'm hearing this from South Africa, and it's mind-blowing. I used to think that we're on top of it, because nothing gets practically done in Cameroon if you don't exchange envelopes.
everything comes not at a price, but everything comes for free. So there's no longer this direction of working hard, being determined, striving for unachievable, and never giving up, and having dreams and ambitions. And we allow them to see the richness and the convenience that corruption comes with, without seeing the implications of the destruction to the economy and the hindrance of basic services. And, the rich just become richer and their lifestyles flash before a generation hungry for value and recognition.
Things I know, Uncle, Auntie, what you're doing, I don't think this is right. You understand? We need to start calling ourselves to order, being accountable for ourselves, be our neighbor's keepers. And until we're able to go retrace our steps, because in the past, the culture, the tradition, the African tradition is that you know your neighbor. So somebody cannot go up one day and then suddenly you don't know what he's doing. He's built a house, he's driving a car, and you cannot say this is a source of income. We hear of all sorts of things recently now, youth doing ritual killing to make money, all sorts. So really and truly for me, I think we need to take a step back, go back to the roots, from the family unit, and start making things right.
Imagine a graduate thinking about having big cars in a short time, luxurious life, while forgetting to resolve issues which are really big issues, problems, challenges like water, lack of transport, reliable transport, telecommunication, education system. So they end up being encircled by this politician that they are promising them to give a good life, rather than for young people to use their education, like what Nyerere said. Young people, they are supposed to go to get education, then come back to the community and resolve issues, challenges which are being hindering development in the community. For instance, in Tanzania, I'll take the case of Tanzania. We have big three issues here since the colonization and after colonization. It's all about diseases, poverty, and illiterate.
Most people take elections, I don't know, they just take it like it's a normal thing. And the sad bit is that majority of us don't even bother to vote. And those of us who even vote, they vote on basis of race, or maybe they're just sycophant about someone, and they end up electing someone who won't even be able to support them in any way. And that is where now the problem comes in. We vote in bad leaders, and these leaders, they don't even have the interest of the community members, the citizens at heart. And they end up not even doing anything because they were driven by their selfish ambitions in order to be on the seat. So it takes us to who are these leaders we are choosing to be on the seats.
We had this not too young to run bill where we were encouraging young Africans to run for office. And this was supported by many partners, many donor funds, etc. But now we have the cost of running for office, which is exorbitant, that young people cannot afford, even if they work from now to their 90s. So first of all, you have that political system where you have the form for one of the parties, 100 million naira, another one, 40 million naira. And there's so many people coming out to run. So I ask myself, where is electoral transparency in this country? How do we track revenues and track resources that are being pushed into this system? The second question is, how is this money being used? Are they actually being used to ensure electoral transparency? Will the person who gets the most votes win? And thirdly, after these people who have paid so much money get into office, what is to prevent them from emptying the coffers of our country to pay back the loans they have taken to even buy a simple form? We're not talking about the cost of running for office. We're not even talking about the cost of campaigns. We're talking about so much just to buy a form. Why is this necessary?
That the people we criticize as leaders did not come from space. They're sitting in the same pews in churches. They're in the same cultural groups. After they leave work, they are with us every day. So why is it that the moment somebody leaves from among us and becomes a general manager of a state corporation or a government minister or the president, he is doing what when he was down, he was criticizing. So it starts from families. Number two, it continues because truly speaking, few Africans who talk change really want change. They complain about the system because it doesn't favor them. The moment it favors them, that's okay. It's all right. Some other person's problem. The third reason why it continues is because when we talk about corruption in a lot of African groups, and I get tired of it, it is somebody's pointing the finger at someone else. So it is somebody's thing, not your thing also. Have we ever sat and asked the question, what is it that we are doing, even if inadvertently that's continuing, that's contributing to the problem we are complaining about? If we ask this all-important question, then it becomes everyone's responsibility to do what they can, where they are, and with what they have.
A speaker from South Africa mentioned allocation of tenders and allocation of contracts in a place where there's so much corruption. This corruption is so documented, and we do nothing about it. So I agree that we start from the individual level, but we should not hesitate to call out corruption where we see it. Start from there at least. We have social media, we have the power of youth. The youth make up more than 50% of Africa's population. If we do band together, we can at least make that an evident issue that people have to take into consideration when running for office. We should make running for office with a corrupt background illegal in our country. Thanks.
Employment, I refer to my own country, Ghana. If you are going for a job, particularly in the public service, your chances of getting the job are around 1%. It's become a lot more prominent, particularly in the last 4 years. For every job, and most jobs in the public service, you probably need a bribe of around $500 to get a job. And it's got to the extent where everything is so monetized that even if your father was the head of the organization, he can probably still not get you a job, because the list from the politicians, what we typically call list, which in most institutions will probably be about 10%, at most 20% of the recruitment, is now 99% of that recruitment. And that list can be so long in comparison to the number that need to be recruited, that even people who work cannot get other people in. And all these people now are taking money, the sum I mentioned before they get to, recruit you.
If you go to towns and villages in Cameroon, go to the mother selling peanuts, we call that granuts in Africa. Look at the cups which they retail the granite from. Let me call it granite because we all of us understand that. If you look at the bottom of the cup is squeezed in, that's where corruption starts. Because otherwise, you are giving the impression that you are selling a cup full of granuts when it's not full, because you have smashed the under inward to give the impression that it's full.
Some of the assumptions that underpin the constitution that we wrote, and I use Ghana's own as an example, have not been valid currently. Now, if you look at Ghana's constitution, 1992 constitution, even the key accountability institutions, appointment of that leadership is done by the president, who is the executive. And almost every appointment done by the president. I want to believe the assumption of the drafters of the constitution was that the president of the land will be the number one patriot of the land. He wants to be the one to, as it were, protect the public purse, fight corruption. As such, you give him the power to elect people who he believes have the integrity and have the values and have the commitment to fight corruption together with him and, basically protect the public purse. Some 30 years down the line in Ghana, you look at it and you're not sure that the presidents really are the number one patriots of the land and they really want to fight corruption and they have interest in fighting corruption.
Join our WhatsApp group and then we'll give you all the details. We have 23 countries represented in Voice One Africa across the continent. We don't have chapters in all the countries yet, but we have chapters in a couple of countries. So you can join our WhatsApp platform and then you could champion the Pan-African agenda. I am Joseph Dennis Kwaku. popularly known as Dijo Kwaku. I'm the founding chair of Voice One Africa. We are a Pan-African youth movement, and we believe that the youth of Africa must connect in various ways. And to attain the Pan-African agenda, we shouldn't leave this to the politicians. You know, we advocate and we say that our founding fathers were in their youth when they pushed for independence from our colonial masters. In the same vein, when we're fighting against neo-colonialism, it's the youth of Africa who must front or lead this charge. And so Voice One Africa is a Pan-African youth movement that's connecting the youth of Africa, and we are empowering youth in various avenues and various sectors, socioeconomic, also mentoring opportunities, business training opportunities, and stuff like that. And I would like to say that this meeting is being hosted by the Mandela Institute for Development Studies, Minds Africa, based in Johannesburg, South Africa. And we're excited about our partnership, Voice One Africa. We're excited about our partnership with Minds Africa. And so thank you all for joining this conversation.